Well, Luann Koester, welcome to the Rocky Mountain Writer Podcast.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
Great to have you on. And one thing I noted as we started setting this up is that I don't think it's possible to get more geographically separated from Southwest to Northeast in Colorado than it is for you and me. I am literally 40 miles or so from Four Corners in Southwest Colorado, and you're darn close to the Northeast corner.
Yeah, we're probably about 90 miles from the Nebraska line.
Wow.
Yeah, maybe
That's
not even that many.
Yeah, it's a long way between us. I know it's 350 miles to Denver, so it's probably another couple of hundred miles further out. Yeah. How long have you lived out there?
I've lived in northeastern Colorado all my life. I've lived on the ranch that my husband and I have for 40 years. Yeah, we've been married for 40 years.
Wow. And it's a cattle ranch.
It's a cattle ranch, right.
How many head of cattle do you have?
I think he's running about 250 pairs right now. So just starting the calving season.
Wow. Okay. I assume pairs means pair,
Mamas
couple.
Mamas and babies.
Okay. I'm not a cattle guy, so. And how has your winter been? It's been a kind of an interesting weather-wise.
Oh my, we have had since November 29th, I believe we've had a little over 45 inches of snow.
Yeah.
And we still have a lot on the ground. Just today we've had, I've counted 2 blizzard squalls go through, and but we've got drifts and but as big of a nuisance as it's going to make things beautiful in the spring.
Yeah, there's a lot of good that comes with all that snow in the winter, right? It's in the bank, the water's in the bank.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's great. Wow. Well, we have so much to talk about. You've got such an esteemed background in terms of teaching and what you've done. I'm really interested, before we get to your new book and talk about that and how it came together. I'm really curious, when did you start really engaging with writing and reading it? Sounds like this has been a lifelong thing.
Well, yeah, I wrote little stories when I was in grade school, and then of course I never paid much attention to them, and then I really didn't get back into it until into the writing until I was a fellow in the Rocky Mountain Writing Project, and as doing that, I believe it was in 1998. The National Writing Project, their philosophy is that, as well as teaching pedagogy for writing, they want the teachers to see themselves as writers teaching writers. And so when I did the Rocky Mountain Writers Project, in addition to the pedagogy, how to teach writing what I think is the best way ever, and we had to write, and that's where this particular novel was born, I guess.
Okay, well, we're going to get to Hawk's Cry. We are absolutely going to get there. I don't want anybody to flip off the channel, but if you want to skip ahead, maybe I'll note when we get to that content. But you just said something really important, or at least I have to stop and ask, what is the best way? Walk us through the best way to teach writing. What is that? What is that?
You just give students the opportunity to write. So I did writers' workshops in my classes where I would have prompts, and they could choose the prompts and they would write, and it was a lengthy, at least a month long, every day for 90 minutes workshop. And then by the end of it, I tried to teach them, I tried to instill in them that they value their writing. And so instead of the grill and drill grammar lessons and convention lessons, by the end of that, the philosophy is that they would value themselves as writers and their writing so much, then they would take that time to, perfect the grammar and the conventions, and they would really want to do that, as opposed to the typical English classroom where, today we're going to learn about prepositions and that sort of thing.
So the point is to lead and start with getting your voice out and getting your ideas out and knowing that you can produce a fair amount, or not that it's measured, not that the key is to measure it, but you can see some pages come together and see a story come together. Do that first and then learn the nuts and bolts of appropriate grammatical,
Exactly.
Yeah.
I even did that in my composition classes where it was just composition, and I was teaching the different types of expository writing with students. We tried to value the writing process first and the voice and the ideas, and then the very last thing you did was take care of the mechanics of the piece.
Because the mechanics can be a real turnoff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and they just look so fussy at first, and that's great. So before there's so many questions. So Rocky Mountain Writers Project, tell us what that is exactly, and how does that connect with the National Writers Project?
Well, it's an affiliate of the National Writing Project. And so this, the Rocky Mountain Writing Project, I believe it has, when I did it, it was in Greeley. I believe it's moved to CSU now. And then there's also the Colorado Writing Project, which is a smaller version of that. So we in Colorado have two, the Rocky Mountain and the Colorado, and I've done both, and they were both. I did them early in my teaching career, and I really think it set me up for being an effective teacher in the classroom and facilitator of the workshops, and ultimately a writer teaching writers. Yeah.
For those who don't know, and of course we'll put your resume in the detailed information about this podcast, but I would love it if you just walk through and give folks an idea of your teaching career, because it's really impressive.
Well, I started teaching at a small rural school here in northeastern Colorado, Merino. It's the Buffalo School District. Merino is the name of the town. I taught there for 26 and a half years.
How many students in Merino?
Oh, wow. So my classes very rarely, my biggest class ever was like 28 students, but typically we were right around the 20 mark. So
how many in high school, or the total town is not that big?
No, the total town's not that big. And so there might be 90, 95 in the high school. Very rarely did we tip over the 100 mark.
Okay, great. Okay, so then you taught there for how long?
26 and a half years. I came in, I actually, they had a teacher leave. And so I was doing my student teaching at the time in a neighboring town. And so the job just fell into my lap. So I took over the Monday after Thanksgiving break, and that's where I stayed for 26 and a half years.
Wow.
Yeah, it was, I taught 9 through 12 grades. And then I did teach a little bit of college composition through, as an affiliate with our junior college in Sterling. But it was great because I had them coming into 9th grade. I had them through 12th grade, so I could, I had a very aligned curriculum. So that was great.
Yeah. You've also done a lot of work through like Colorado College, University of Denver, I believe.
Yeah. So once I had two boys. Once they were out of high school and in college, I went back and did my master's degree. I got a master's degree from Colorado College, and that's the only, they offer a master's of arts in teaching. It's the only master's, it's the only graduate program Colorado College offers. And it was fabulous because, you know, Colorado College is a prestigious private school. But what they did was, and I'm assuming they still do it, they would offer this master's program in the summer for teachers at what we would pay for it at a CU or a CSU or a UNC. So it was quite a bargain. We were getting a very top-notch education. It was a 3-year program. And so I did get my Master's of Arts in teaching. And then when I finished that, I went back and I did, I went to DU and did some writing things. Gosh, I can't even remember what the program was called. Oh, I got a certificate of expertise in creative writing from DU.
That's how cool is that? That must have been just a blast.
It was. I learned so much, and I did so much writing, all different kinds of writing. So you know, I just it just made me a stronger writer, teaching writers, I think.
Yep. So we are creeping up on your book. So since we're not just going straight to the big headline about Hawk's Cry, let's cover, when did you first get published and how'd that come about?
Oh, I first published in I published a little children's book in August of 2021.
Okay, so more recently. Okay.
Yeah, just recently. I always wanted, I've had Hawk's Cry finished for a while. And I always, you know, I wanted to go traditional publishing, the traditional route. But I had my best writing buddy. She had self-published a children's book, and she was always on me about, you need to just self-publish, Luann. You just need to self-publish. She got leukemia and passed away, and so I decided, okay, Con, I'll do it. So I had this, we had been in our little writing group, I had just been playing with a little children's story about a grandmother that goes to Ireland and kisses the Blarney stone and comes back and is just silly as can be. And I was basically just playing with language, alliteration, and making it very lyrical. And so I sought a publisher, and I was accepted. I had to pitch it, but it was I kind of did the indie publishing version, you know. And so that was my first publishing experience. So Gran kissed the Blarney stone.
Okay, I was just about to ask the title of that one.
Yeah, Gran kissed the Blarney stone. It's for about 3 to 8 year olds, very lyrical, very colorful. I ended up, you know, I thought, oh, I just have a cute little book here. And they said, oh, no, you got to do a lot of work on this. We need to develop an arc and all of this and that. And it was a long process. I started that probably in 2019, and we published in August of 2021 is when it actually came out.
And who published that one then?
Wise Ink Creative Publishing did that. They were out of Minneapolis. Okay. And it was a great experience working with them.
Do you have a copy of that handy?
I do. Just hang on just a second.
We'll play the Jeopardy theme song while you do. There you go. So that's great. And the inside has got illustrations?
Oh, yes. Very. I worked with an illustrator from England.
Wow.
And we did, it was during COVID, so we were able to do a lot of Zoom. But
That's
she
great.
was just fabulous to work with. And so it's very colorful, and it was fun to do.
How did it feel to get your first book in your hands?
Oh, that was exciting, really
Yeah.
exciting. And it was very exciting as, you know, at the launch party and having people come in and purchase it. And even probably more exciting is to go to the libraries and read it and watch the kids react to it. And
So have you been doing library tours in that area or all
I
over
did.
Colorado?
Just mostly in this area. So last, of course, it's, you know, I really hit it hard in around St. Patrick's Day. So basically from March until June, I visited a lot of schools, a lot of libraries, but I need to widen my circle now.
Yeah, wow. So just to recap, that came out in what year?
2021.
Okay. So kind of still the pandemic was still going on.
Right. Yeah.
In
Yes,
terms
it
of
was.
getting out to schools and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I just have to ask, I mean, you did have a traditional publisher for that book, and your friend had been encouraging you to self-publish. So it probably felt good for you to follow through the way you wanted to go, which was traditional.
Well, it was more of a hybrid, you know.
Okay.
I had to upfront all of the costs, but I
I see.
had an editor, I had a book designer, so I had all of that.
Gotcha. I'm with you. Yep. Okay. Good deal. So what was next?
What was next was, okay, so I was going around to different places, different events, selling my book, and I would notice that the people that had more than one book, you know, I had one book on my table, and, you know, people would just hang out a little bit longer at those tables. And so, you know, it's okay, I've had this manuscript since 2008-ish. So I decided that I would try the agent route again. A little bit of a backstory. I had actually submitted Hawk's Cry to Wise Inc. And they turned me down. They said, this is too good. You need to seek traditional publishing for this.
Wow, nice.
So, and of course, I was still teaching at the time. And I don't, other teachers, writers out there will probably know this. When I was teaching, I wasn't doing my own writing. My own writing took place during the summer, mostly. And so, you know, I kind of put it in the drawer again, and there it sat. Well, when I was noticing that people that had multiple books on their table seemed to have more interest, I thought, okay, it's time. So I actually took a class on how to write a query letter, do a good query letter. So I did all of that last February and March, I believe, while I was doing all of these events. And so I got ready to do that, to pitch agents. And I actually, my family and I, we went to Ireland this summer. We went to Scotland. So I did a lot of traveling this summer. So by the fall, I was ready to start pitching it out to agents. And I pitched it out to 3. And at the same time, I saw it, on Facebook, Carrie Flanagan, who is one of the founding members of what used to be Northern Colorado Writers, was offering a class on how to self-publish. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to do this. And I had to submit part of my manuscript. It had to be a completed manuscript, but then just to submit part of it. And as it would happen, I was the only one that submitted, so I was accepted. And Carrie said, well, Luann, we can do this starting in October. and you'll have me all to yourself, or you can wait when I do it in the winter again, because some of the people hadn't finished their manuscripts yet. So I said, well, let's just go for it. And about the time I started with Carrie, I got my first rejection from an agent. And it was when I would send out to small publishing houses, I would get very promising comments back to them, but they'd always say, you know, oh, we loved it, but we're a small publishing house and we only publish 2 books a year, and we've published our 2 books. Or another one, my first rejection, which I framed and hung on my wall, we love it, but we just printed a book with a similar theme.
Yeah.
With every agent I've ever pitched, it was just the standard, this does not fit into my portfolio at this time, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I thought, I think this is telling me just to go the self-publishing route. So Carrie taught me everything she could teach me between October and December. And so off we went.
Wow. And it did end up being a lot of work as far as you were concerned?
Yes, it was a lot of, yeah. Getting the manuscript into a program, I worked with a program called Atticus, and then getting that into the KDP, and yeah, it's a lot of work, and still is a lot of, then I put it into Ingram's, and I'm trying to get it into digital to digital, but I'm kind of having some fussiness with that, so I'm still working on that. So yeah, it's a lot of work, but I'm much faster than trying to get the agent, which is never even if you do get an agent, that pie chart that they show about you've got your agent now, your chances of actually getting it into a publishing house are so slim. So in that respect, I guess that getting Little Hawk out is happening way quicker than even Gran Kiss the Blarney Stone, did.
So take us into the world. What is Hawk's Cry about?
Okay, well, Hawks. So I live on a ranch that borders. It's called Summit Springs. The Cheyenne refer to it as White Butte Creek. To this day, they refer to it as White Butte Creek, but they did back in 1869 as well. It is the site of the last battle in Colorado between the Cheyenne dog soldiers and a cavalry that were looking for them. So 1869, it's the Plains Indian Wars are going on, and Tall Bull is a chief for the Cheyenne dog soldiers, and he's angry about Sand Creek. He's angry about some of the treaties that have been broken. But at this point, a lot of the Cheyenne have agreed to go to the reservation. And Tall Bull says no. And so Tall Bull goes into, he and a group of renegade warriors, and they have families with them. They go into Kansas, and they raided and killed some farmers in Kansas. They took 2 women hostages. And some children. However, the children perished before they got into Colorado. So Tall Bull ends up at White Butte Creek or Summit Springs, which is just right out my picture window. And he's waiting for the South Platte River to recede so that they can cross and get back into Wyoming, South Dakota area. And the cavalry, the 5th U.S. Cavalry, catches up with them they are being led by some Pawnee scouts. And of course, the Cheyenne and the Pawnee are terrible, terrible enemies. So the story is, and again, the history is very sketchy because the history is being told by the victor, you know, the Major Frank North, who provides a lot of this narrative. The story is, and it's on the plaques, on monuments at the site, that a 15-year-old herd boy was herding the ponies on top of the bluff, and he saw the Pawnee soldiers, and behind them, or the Pawnee, and behind them he could see the soldiers. The rest of the village, the women and children, mostly women and children that were in the canyon, thought it was a returning scouting party. Mm-hmm. And so they weren't alarmed at all. And so the story goes that Little Hawk chased the horses into the canyon, and many of the women and children were able to jump on and escape. And he was killed
Boy.
Bessie. Oh. And so, and that's all we really know. But then you have to ask yourself, do we really know that? Because in some tellings, Little Hawk was he had been at Beecher Island and was 18 years old or older. And in some tellings, there is no Little Hawk. But when I started my novel, I decided that I would write the story about the boy on the monument, Little Hawk. And so that's why it's called Little Hawk, the Story of a Cheyenne Hero. So I invent Little Hawk's life. Everything except for the very last scene in the second to last chapter is invented.
Yeah. Hold up that cover just for a little bit longer. We barely got a glimpse of it. Yeah. That's great. That's great. Very good. Wow. And that's aimed at young adults?
It's aimed at middle grade.
Okay.
So, but I really feel like anybody that enjoys, I do agree that, or I do believe that, the older teen, the 17 and 18-year-old would enjoy it. It's probably 11 to 15 is probably the primary reader, but anybody that enjoys historical fiction, I think, can enjoy it and won't mind having two protagonists that are youths. I have two protagonists because there's a little, and this is one of the things that Weisink said would appeal to traditional publishers. I have a little mysticism in this. In my story, a 12-year-old boy that lives on the ranch neighboring the canyon finds part of a Plains courting flute, and it belonged to Little Hawk. And they have a mystical meeting. And Little Hawk says, "I'm trapped here. I'm trapped in this place. And I want to get back to where I belong," which is where he left. In my story, Little Hawk's mother and father decide to join Tallbull instead of going to the reservation. And so he wants to go where he and his grandfather had such fond memories, where they made the flute together. And so in my story, Little Hawk he's upset that he's having to leave his grandfather, and he's upset that he doesn't get to make his vision quest. He doesn't have his warrior ceremony. However, while traveling through the Medicine Bow Mountains, he has a vision, and he basically sees what's going to happen and is told, "What will you do when this happens?" And so Little Hawk doesn't realize it, but he's on a vision quest. And then Ryan, my contemporary protagonist, after the meeting with Little Hawk, he realizes that he has to help Little Hawk and set him free. And so he goes on his own vision quest, essentially, to get the it's the saddle, the spirit guide of the plains courting flute back to where it needs to be. So, and I juxtapose every other chapter. And so what's happening is there's a juxtaposition between the two boys on their journeys.
Gotcha. And that book came out when, or is it just about?
Just last month.
Okay.
Yeah, in January.
Okay. Yeah. Great. And how's it doing? Are you getting out there to promote it, or what's the plan?
I've been doing since January 10th. I've been doing pre-orders. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like it's my version of a Kickstarter. I just put on my website that you could pre-order it. So to date, I've sold about 110 books via pre-order. And so my launch party is set for the 25th of this month. And so I will, of course, deliver at that time. People can come pick up their books, and then hopefully there will be some more purchases at that time.
Fantastic. And what's next?
What's next?
Yeah, come on.
Well, I have a teacher's guide, because Hawk's Cry became part of my master's thesis. When I went to Colorado College, I pitched it. It was that was in 2007, and high stakes testing, no child left behind. And what was happening in the social studies classrooms was just, and science as well, it was sad. Some people referred to it the squeezing out of social studies, because math and reading were at the forefront. And so when I pitched my thesis idea, it was, historical fiction can be used in the reading classroom, and they'll be getting their history that way. So I have a teacher's guide as part of my thesis. So I had the first part of my thesis was all about what is historical fiction, how does one write good historical fiction. Then I had my novel, and then the third part of my thesis was a teacher's guide. So I want to put a teacher's guide out. And then I also want to do an activities book for Gran Kiss the Blarney Stone. So I've got those two things. And then I also have in my desk drawer, I have another novel started. It's about, it's a little bit, well, it's a lot later or earlier. So, and it's based on Native American, but my protagonist is female this time, and she's kidnapped and sent as a slave to to what's now the extinct Pecos Pueblo, which, that Pecos Pueblo was like the center of trade between Mexico and, all over. It was a prestigious Pueblo. And then, of course, the conquistadors came. And so I've got something going on with that, but I've got to find time to get back into that one a little bit.
Yeah, that's great. Wow. Well, congratulations on all these.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, terrific. Sounds like, when you look back at just sort of starting out teaching all this writing, and the fact that you've now got some books out there in the world being read by your audience, must feel pretty good. It
does feel good. Yeah. It's been a good way to spend retirement.
Yeah, good. Well, great. As we wrap up, we always like to give our guests a chance to promote a book or suggest an author that you think more people should be reading. So would love to get a suggestion.
Okay, well, you can go onto my website, www.booksandwriting.com, and you can order the book. You can do it via PayPal, or you can send me a check and I'll ship out. It's also on Amazon.
Okay.
at this time. So, and there is an electronic version as well. So you can find Hawks Cry there. Gran Kiss the Blarney Stone is just on my website right now. However, I think I am going to put do a paperback version on Amazon as well. And then in terms of books to suggest, I tell you what, The Book Thief is my favorite book ever. I couldn't put it down, and I just wept and wept and wept. But this is one that it's 20 years old maybe, but Out of the Dust. So of course it's by Karen Hesse, Hesse.
Okay.
And it's a story, but it's written all in free verse poetry.
Wow. Okay.
So
wow.
It's a fabulous little read. And of course I'm a historical fiction fan, and so it takes you back to the Dust Bowl and that era, and all through free verse in free verse poems. So it's very good.
Very cool. Wow. Well, Luann Koester, thank you so much for your time today and for all your insights, and congratulations on your books that are out there in the world now. And as a guy who really appreciated his high school English teacher, and I don't think I would be here without her in particular, one in particular. I can still see her. I know what a difference she made to me. So my thanks to you and for all you did and have done to teach our youth and show them the way with reading and writing.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It was a good way to spend 26.5 years.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll catch up with you down the road. And thanks again.
All right. Thank you, Mark. Take care.